Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 75. Hello everyone, welcome back to
another
this
Photo
week's
Mishmash.
episode. Yeah, say it again, why don't we?
This is that weekly show where we mash up all of the week's photography news, discussions, what we've been up to, and share it with you. I'm Toby, photographer and educator.
And I am Christina. I am a full-time wedding photographer, and this is Liam right here on the table.
Just wanted him to face you. That's his better side.
For your viewing pleasure.
Oh.
So every show we bring you the week's photography news, Instagram challenges, and Instagram challenge winners. We bring you informative discussions. We answer your photography questions live. So if you are watching right now, go ahead and post your question in the chat and we will collect them. And at the end of the show, we will answer them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this week we're going to be talking specifically about Photo Expo. We've been there. We experienced it. A booth that was surprisingly large for the one product it offered. See if you can guess what that is. What we liked personally there, what was a little sad, and we're also going to be talking about first impressions of the Sony A7S Mark II. I've got the 35mm f1.4 on here, all nicely getting covered in cat hair. We'll talk about that a little bit, and we're also going to talk about why you might want to consider submitting your images to copyright.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a murder mystery in Photoshop. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, not to mention Canon there's some rumors in the rumor mill for Canon and its sensors. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk all about all of that in the news. So yeah, let's get started, I guess.
Yeah, and we get started with this show with that week in review. That's the section where we talk about stuff that we've put out in the last week. And we haven't put out a video since last Photo Mishmash. I don't like doing that, but it's just how it worked out and happened with traveling and working on some other videos that weren't quite ready yet. I want to talk a little bit about this exciting Flash series we're working on, Christina?
Yes, so while we haven't published any videos this past week, we have been hard at work on some tutorials for you guys. So we're hoping to have the first one out pretty soon. It's all about lighting, portraits, indoors, and learning about how to indoors and outdoors. It's just portrait lighting in general.
I'm excited because it's an area that I have a ton of room to grow in, and I'm learning stuff.
And I think learning this stuff really, for me, when I was first starting, it really revolutionized the way that I took pictures. So I think you guys will really benefit from it. So look out for it this week.
Great.
Yeah.
The other exciting bit of news, just reminding you all that we have a really nice giveaway going on right now, partnered up with McKay Photography Academy think tank to provide you all with an amazing, really adventure of a lifetime trip to Moab, Utah to photograph the amazing landscapes there, Arches National Park, canyon lands, beautiful kind of classic Southwest style landscapes. And Animals of Montana will be joining us, bringing down mountain lions, photographing them in their natural habitat there. There's no fence in between you. Airfare in the U.S. is included. The contest is open worldwide, but if you went outside, you got to get yourself in the U.S. and then we'll get you the rest of the way. All of the details you need to know are at photorec.tv/giveaway. If you haven't entered, go enter and take a moment to take that little lucky link it gives you and share it out to friends and family. And I've noticed people who have gotten a good number of extra entries into the contest, they take a moment to craft a personal message to friends and family, convincing them to sell themselves out, basically, because that's what you got to do. But I recommend you do that. It will be a lot of fun. We'll be there. We're really excited about it. You've never been to that part of the U.S.
No, I haven't.
I have. It's been a long time. I'm really excited to go back. So
that
ends
the first week in December,
That's
and the winner will be announced shortly after. So go ahead and go to photorec.tv/giveaway to enter. Go there right now.
Great.
Right now.
Now let's talk a little bit about gear on the table. First, I'd like to start with this 0 megapixel. No. How many megapixels would Liam be? Somebody tell us. Sony A7S came in yesterday morning. This is a review unit on loan along with this lens as well. So I didn't buy this because if you remember, I said I'm about purchased out. The A7R Mark II put me over the edge. It is, or its headline feature, of course, is amazing low light capabilities. Its high ISO images and video are fantastic. Just amazing. And the A7S II offers that in-body image stabilization and 4K, something that the A7S did not. Low light improvements are slight compared to the original, but it really is that 4K in-body. You don't have to have an Atomos recorder or any kind of external device to record 4K, and you have in-body image stabilization.
We were talking about the lens.
The lens, okay.
Yeah.
35mm f1.4. You know, in my reasons why I don't recommend Sony for weddings, one of my reasons was there aren't very many fast lenses. This is one of the few fast lenses, fast being a maximum aperture wider than 1.8. f1.4, early tests show extremely sharp, really, really nice. It's got a manual aperture ring if you want, or you can put it on automatic. I'll be talking about this in more detail as well. One thing, and I don't know, this might be a holdover, this might be I'm stuck in this paradigm, but I would like the manual focus, autofocus switch on here. That would be nice. So I'll be sharing more about that soon. Let me know if I'm an old fogey because the lens doesn't have it. So the only way to switch into manual focus is through the menu system. But really, that's minor because the lens is gorgeous. I'll be shooting with all of these things as we travel over the next week and sharing more.
Yep. Just a quick reminder before we move on to give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're watching right now. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. And lastly, if you want to support us, a really easy way to do that is by using our Amazon B&H and all of our affiliate links. We get a little bit of a little cut from the sale when you purchase something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little kickback.
A little money.
So if you're already going to buy something.
It's not under the table.
Yes. So if you're already going to buy something, super easy. You just go to photorec.tv and use one of the links listed on there.
Photorec.tv/about, or you can go to the show notes of this page, which are linked right down below, and Roy's nicely put those together, and they have links there. And just a reminder, Amazon B&H costs you nothing extra, and it is completely free way for you to help support this channel and what we do.
Yep.
Especially during this holiday shopping season.
Yep. Great. So now we're going to move on to our news section. And the first thing that we actually want to talk to you guys about is something, it's not necessarily news, but it's more of a plug for an organization that is local to our town that does really good things. They teach young kids to photography. They teach digital film, like stop motion animation classes, all kinds of things, and they operate on a sliding scale, so they make it accessible to everyone who wants to take a class there. So
you've taught there before.
I have taught there before. Yeah, they are doing a silent auction. So they have had lots of photographers submit images, and they're auctioning them, and all of the proceeds go towards this organization. So we want you guys to go check it out and maybe like buy a print.
That's right.
Because that would be really awesome if they could meet their goal for this year.
Yep.
The links are down below. If you're interested in visiting the organization, it's Insight Photography. It's INSIGHT-PHOTOGRAPHY.org. And they'll have a link to the auction on there.
That's right.
website. So.
And related to that, the gentleman who has started that program also happens to be a photography professor at the college I used to work at. And I just want to mention this. That they didn't ask me to, but it's Marlboro College, Marlboro like the cigarettes, but there is actually no affiliation. They are now offering, they're now offering a full 4-year scholarship to one student in every state in the United States and the District of Columbia. So, it is a small liberal arts college. And so if you know somebody who is getting ready, starting to shop around for what school they might want to go to, and it's kind of a unique student, a rugged intellectual is one of their taglines that they're looking for. Could be somebody interested in photography, but it doesn't necessarily have to. They would get good photography instruction here from John Willis. Great guy, great photographer. So I just want to put that out there. Both of those are right down below and also in the show notes.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to get into our new section.
First, 2 stories have a very common theme. Somebody's photo was stolen and used. That's usually what I mean by stolen. And in both cases, they really had very little recourse, despite the fact that one of that was a property management group here in the United States, and the other happened to be, I don't know.
A worldwide terrorist organization or an international terrorist organization.
That's right, known as ISIS. So in the first one, and are we feeding my computer over there? I can't remember if we...
Not yet.
If we needed to start that again after the crash.
I think it works.
Okay, great. So the first one, let's look real quick at this image that was stolen by ISIS. This gentleman creates these kind of Toys in War series of photographs that he gets the idea from these poor children that have been in these war zones, and ISIS took one of these images and changed it. And what recourse do you have? I mean, so he went to the places where they posted it, Twitter, maybe a Facebook or something, and he used the DMAC to say, take this down. And, those places complied and took it down. But he can't quite go to ISIS and say, I'm taking you to court or anything like that. So that's the one story. The other story is, gentleman walked into a mall and saw his picture as a huge kind of poster-sized banner for this property management group. Called him up and said, you're using my image without permission. Here's what you can pay me. And they said, we don't see this as commercial use. And he's like, are you freaking kidding me? And cat jumping to the wrong place. And she basically repeated that line, the woman he talked to on the phone, over and over again. We don't see this commercial use. We can take it down if you want, but we're not going to pay you. He said, take it down. Take it down tonight. And they complied. And he talked to a bunch of different lawyers, and they said, yeah, you can take them to court. Because this is what we hear a lot of the time. Oh, just take them to court, sue them. But in this case, after legal fees, court costs, he would probably maybe recoup what he could consider his losses, and maybe not. Certainly wouldn't get rich. So a lot of times we hear that, just sue them. And it really isn't an answer.
Yeah, I mean, in order to sue somebody, you have to spend a lot of your own money for attorney's fees, and they're not really reimbursed unless you win. So you gotta bring them a pretty good case. And
yep. Part of the option was that he had never registered the photo with the U.S. Copyright Office, and without that, it's hard to collect damages aside from usage fees. So they were confident they'd win, but again, all these little things add up. So, bummer.
Yeah.
I just thought 2 of those stories together there.
All right, next story is, let's go back to us.
Okay.
So, actress Kate Winslet, her newest modeling contract with makeup and I guess beauty product company L'Oreal has a no Photoshop clause. So, just a woman standing up for over Photoshopping and unrealistic expectations of what women should look like. or should look like.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's, I wouldn't say that it's brave, but she's definitely, an outlier. Not a lot of women are.
Well, there's some of this backlash. Demi Lovato recently posed, I think, in the nude, and said, no Photoshop.
Photoshopping, yeah.
But here's what I wonder: does the clause truly say no Photoshop? Because you Photoshop people you photograph.
Sometimes. I mean, I Photoshop, like I edit the image in Lightroom.
Okay, the images receive some editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Stylistic editing.
stylistic editing. So is there a clause in the contract that says no, body slimming, no face smoothing of that sort, or does it say seriously no Photoshop?
I think she's referring to I mean, I don't know if you read the article, but what she's specifically referring to is the idea of making her look younger and perfect, when in reality, no one looks like that. And she should, and she wants to set a good example, because a lot of young women do look to these magazines for inspiration and look to these people as, role models. So I think it's really important for, the older women or the women who are in the magazines to just say, this is who I am and I'm happy with it. So anyway.
Right, yeah. Just real quick, Greg says he can't believe they could get away with that as non-commercial use. Well, the truth is they probably couldn't. You could take them to court, but again, without it being copyrighted, you just can't do damage fees other than licensing fees, which make it not worthwhile.
Yep. So. Alrighty, so Toshiba.
Well, let's lump. We got a bunch of sensor shifting stories all together. We're going to lump these together so that we don't go on too long. Sony's going to acquire Toshiba's image sensor business for $165 million. That sounds like pennies to me. 160. I mean, it doesn't really sound like pennies. Welcome back, Liam. But when you think about some of these non-physical properties being bought and sold, Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat's value at billions of dollars, 165 million? Sounds pretty small. Sony snapping somebody else up, Toshiba. I don't remember. I can't think off the top of my head what Toshiba sensors are being used in, so maybe that's why it's only selling for 165 million. But, it's some consolidation there for Sony to continue their front-running status as the leaders in the sensor business, both in, I'd say, technology and in amount. So much so that they're going to be spinning off, actually, I don't think this is a story, maybe we mentioned it last week, that Sony is spinning off their sensor technology into its own sensor imaging corporation. And it's very profitable, will be for at least some period of time. Along with that, Sony has shared previews of the global shutter on their CMOS sensors and super low light technology. This is cool. Come over to my computer for a moment, Christina. Let the good people see. So they've got some cool names for this technology. That's important, folks. If you come up with really cool technology, it's got to have good names to go with it. We've got this Starvis sensor here, which is a backside illuminated pixel technology, or back illuminated pixel technology, which is similar to what we're seeing in the latest Sony sensors. But this is going to be used in surveillance camera applications. Features a sensitivity of a bunch of gobbledygook I don't quite understand, but is amazing in low light technology. So again, the focus here is security and surveillance, but we're going to see some of this stuff trickle down. Now, a global shutter is more interesting, and that, right now we've got rolling shutter. When you shift a camera around or move a camera as you're recording, because each of those lines records at a different time period. Microscopic differences, but it's a different time period. So as you move, part of the image is captured here, part of it, so it rolls across the frame. Global is the whole thing is captured at once. That's been very difficult to do with very high-end sensors because that's a lot of data. But they've got one, they're working on it. This technology is called Pregious. Pregious. Mm-hmm. Does that get you excited? Mm-hmm. Pregious. Okay. So I think those are interesting, and we will be probably hearing more about them. And the final and last sensor story that we're talking about, Canon is actively testing third-party sensors. As Canon rumors said, and I saw this headline and I thought this to myself too, every year we hear this rumor. And it might be true, but every year Canon continues to stick with their sensors. which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's certainly not as good as Sony that we were just talking about. So there's rumors that they are testing some third-party sensors, but folks don't expect a Sony sensor in the next 5D Mark IV or the 1DX Mark II. So
we'll have to see.
Wishful thinking that people stir the pot to get other people talking.
Okay. Speaking of Canon, their profits are down for the third quarter, down 21% actually, as mirrorless cameras cut into DSLR sales. So, come on, Canon.
I asked the guy at Photo Plus, the guy at the Canon mirrorless booth, I said, when is Canon going to get serious about mirrorless? And it might have been a little bit of an unfair question to ask him, and he certainly didn't appreciate that question so much, but he was respectful in his answer, and he'd say, well, that's a loaded question, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, you've got this technology, you've got this autofocus system that's not even as good in your mirrorless as you have in your higher-end DSLRs with the 70D, that dual pixel. And you know, it doesn't even stand up well against the A6000, which is out for a couple of years. So you are going to continue to see your profits drop, Canon, as these mirrorless cut into your low-end DSLRs if you don't get serious and offer something that people want. So he didn't have any good, he didn't really have a good response to that. Although he said some companies make their autofocus systems look better than they might actually be and make ours look worse. And I didn't say anything more. I didn't want to push him anymore at that point, but I thought to myself, I've shot with the A6000 side by side with the 70D and using its autofocus system. And even if you put that dual pixel in your mirrorless, you're still not quite to the A6000 level. So I didn't make that look worse or better than it was. I just used them.
Holdfast has a new strap. It's called the Sightseer Sling Strap, and it expands as needed. And I will admit that I did not see this link before, like 2 seconds ago, and I kind of already want it. It looks really cool. So if you have it on, we'll quickly share it. And you know, we're starting to get to the holiday season. You know, as consumerists that we are. So yeah, might be a worthwhile gift to consider for one of your, for, you know, a whopping $185. We've got $185 to burn.
Right. It definitely gets some points for style, but it is basically a fancy-dancy leather version of a Black Rapid.
Yeah.
For $185. That's an awful lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
You do really appreciate style. I'm learning to appreciate style mostly through you, but that's an awful lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So I'm not very excited about it, but it looks nice.
Yeah. Okay,
But
you want to talk about the Adobe challenge?
Well, this is just, you know, I teased this at the beginning. Photoshop, the Facebook Photoshop page is running a Halloween mystery. They have this story about some space pilots in this futuristic ship. It's the year 2398. Somebody on the ship the pilot has been compromised by an unknown illness. You need to collect the clues to diagnose the ailment and cure the patient. And so they're going to be releasing these different graphics that have been made up for the ship and for the story, and you dig through these Photoshop files, PSD files, to uncover clues and figure things out. That's a neat idea. I like it. So again, in our show notes right down below, and they give you the little zip file with the PSD in there, and you can look through, and they're updating it daily as you go, so new clues and evidence are released. Neat. I like that. I think they're just trying to distract everybody from the grumpiness about Lightroom slowness, but it worked for me. I liked it.
All right, so the 24 to 70 is being reviewed. I don't really know that much about this one, so why don't you tell us briefly?
Well, this is Nikon's new 24 to 70 f2.8. Camera Labs has a review that they're working on right now. This is a big and heavy lens, but it certainly looks sharper than any other 24 to 70 f2.8 VR or IS or OS that's on the market currently. Quite nice. We'll be talking more about this soon. So, Nikon folks, and there are a handful of stories that, excuse me, that we don't always get to, And those are all linked in the show notes, things that we find interesting and relevant that you might find interesting and relevant, and you can click on through and take a look at those. Or if you want to read more about some of the stories that we've talked about tonight, those are all linked in the show notes as well.
Yep. Great. So now let's quickly talk about our photos from space section.
Photos from space. So these German astronomers have unveiled a 46 gigapixel photo of the Milky Way that took 5 years to make. Now, I don't quite actually understand the 5 years part. It didn't actually take 5 years to stitch this image together, but their goal was to find objects in the sky that were varying in brightness, that would be pulsars or mean that would have planets going around them that dims the light apparent at times. So they were shooting sections of the space again and again and again. But that also allowed them to collect this huge, how many? The 268 giant photos into an ultra-giant 46 gigapixel photo that weighs in at a monstrous 194 gigabytes. And the photo is very big. You'll need to use the interactive online viewer to take a look at it. But you can see it's pretty cool. Zoom in and you can see that the image contains a ridiculous amount of detail. That's a lot of stars in the sky.
Yep.
So.
All right, everyone, we have reached the section where we announce our Instagram winners for this past week. So do you want to go ahead and get your tabs ready? And I will stall while you do that. So not a lot of submissions this week, or this past week.
What was the topic, Christina?
The topic was tangents, and we actually didn't do a great job of really explaining it and what actually we're looking for. So we don't blame you if you didn't feel like posting anything. We do appreciate those who did post stuff. I thought the pictures were really strong. I really like, doing more educationally oriented challenges.
Cerebral.
Whatever. Because it really makes you think. And, maybe there's fewer pictures, but, quality over quantity, right?
Okay.
So.
Seem a little defensive.
Well, I feel like somebody by the name of Toby gave me a hard time last week about it being too difficult and too complicated to
understand.
So I'm being a little defensive.
I'd wanted to talk about it a little bit more. We talked about trying to get out a video that talked, what do we mean tangents? And I think you did a good job of talking about it on the podcast, but not everybody watches the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So
let's start with your honorable mentions.
Oh, sure. Okay. So whenever you're ready,
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So this was by Scott Gabrielli, and there is a little bit of a tangent if you look at the rock in the foreground and the little streaks of water going up, but I think that it works really well because there are two kind of humps on the rock, and so they both lead up towards the water, and then everything else is just spaced out. So your eye really travels in a circular kind of motion throughout the picture. So I thought that was, that was nicely done.
And that's the danger of tangents often. If they are on edges, they bring your eye out of the frame, and that's bad.
Or they just feel awkward.
Or they feel awkward. Okay. Yeah. And your next honorable mention?
This was by
Tanner.
Yeah, Tanner. And so I think that the most winning part about this photo is the fact that you have her head and, even the rest of her body, perfectly placed on that little ledge or that little piece of wall that's behind, the wall that has that doorway and that window. So that is exactly what I wanted you guys to sort of go out and do and you did it. So.
Avoid those intersections that distract.
Yeah, and you'll notice that there are still intersections on the face, but they don't really count because they're really the lines of the wood on that back wall behind her are so faint, and even when you look closely at them, they sort of intersect parts of her features of her face. That really makes sense. So it's just really nicely done, Tanner.
Very nice. And your winner?
My winner this week is Angela. So this is kind of a picture that she took a while back, but I think we had talked about tangents before, so it's still relevant. And when I saw it, I love that, you know, she could have taken this photo in like 50 different angles and it wouldn't have been as strong as this. But it was because she separated these two flowers and she, you know, she spaced them out really nicely that it was a strong photo, and the composition is excellent and the colors are excellent. So nice job, Angela.
Very nice. And now one of my honorable mentions is this beautiful photo of the Sydney Harbor from Tony Lawrence. Just, yeah, you know, lovely exposure that's getting a little bit of softness to the water. Perfect. Things aren't blown out. I really like this. I do wish, you probably cropped for the square. I do wish that there was just a little bit of room for these two tips here, especially this one. That one is almost completely in. This one is just off, just a little bit, but otherwise fantastic. I think you've done a really nice job. And sporadic snapper. I like, you've got your, I'm going to say it's your daughter, rule of thirds right there with these curving lines coming down, leading our eye, and also our eye leads up on the one rock that she's sitting on. Worked really nice. The tone in here is very nice as well. I like that all. And my winner this week is Pixelscaper or Pixels Caper. And again, we have, similar to Scott's, you know, this gentleman at the bottom is cut off and the fireworks are cut off at the top, which creates a little bit of tension. But the person and the leading of that one firework that has launched up into the space brings my eye up to the fireworks, and then I can come back down to the people down below, and I really like it. The colors and tone here also are really nice. So Angela and Pixelscaper, we still do have a few prizes left over, and we said we're going to give them this week. So we have the, I didn't grab it either, the Black Rapid Kick Sling Strap is still available. Fusion Photo Plate is available, so email us, toby@photorec.tv, and of course we have these
keyboard covers.
One Furry Cat is available, and keyboard covers for, we have a couple different sizes for Mac keyboards, so shoot us an email if you're interested in those as well. These are quite nice, give your keyboard a little bit of a cool look, and of course the ones with Adobe Photoshop have tons and tons of keyboard shortcuts on them. Again, these are from KB Covers. We thank them for sending that stuff along. So send us an email, toby@photorec.tv, and
next week's challenge is spooky.
You think it's lame.
I do.
I think you should participate.
I don't think it's lame.
It's just fun. Halloween here in North America and some other places in the world, so get out there, shoot something spooky, be safe about it. And you know what? It could be quite a cerebral exercise, because maybe you have a brain in a jar. What are you looking at up
That's
there?
hilarious. I just couldn't tell if the light was on. Yeah, no, super funny.
Okay.
Hashtag your pictures, PRTV_spooky. And I hope to see them next week. Oh, actually, before we forget, next week, we're not going to have a podcast, so we're going to extend the challenge for 2 weeks. Are we? Are we going to extend it for 2 weeks?
No, we'll do it. And
just kidding.
We'll announce both when we come back. We'll put them down there.
Okay.
But we'll announce on this show.
Yeah.
So 1 week, spooky.
Yep.
But no
All
show.
right.
Yep.
So now we're going to move on to our discussion, where we're going to just briefly talk about our thoughts. You know, we went to Photo Expo this past week, so we just want to talk about some of the things we saw and just give you our thoughts.
That's right. So Photo Expo, for those who don't know, is North America's largest photo conference expo thing. You know, it's kind of this two things in one. One, you've got the show floor where there's booth after booth of camera manufacturer, little third-party stuff, photography services, all vying for your attention and trying to get you to look at their product or their service. And then you have, in this case, downstairs, conferences. speakers telling you how to do a better job blogging about the photographs you're taking to get more business, or really famous photographers just kind of sharing their story and their workflow or how they work and live. We actually only went to one of those, but it was great. Do you want to talk a little bit about that one? And then we'll go back and talk about the show floor, which I think most of you are interested in. But this was actually turned out to be really interesting.
Yeah, this somebody in the chat just asked if I was drinking pickled onion vinegar. Very creative. Yeah.
If you were drinking pickled onion vinegar?
Yeah.
Ew.
Out of a jam jar. I'm sorry. Repeat what you had said before. I was too distracted.
Tell us about who we saw in the conference. The one
yes.
talk we went to.
We saw Martin Scholler, and he is a portrait photographer. You know, he's a pretty famous celebrity portrait photographer. His work is pretty amazing. I'm just going to cut over to Toby's screen so you guys can see some of his work. I'm sure you've seen it. He's been on the cover of Time magazine. He's on billboards. He's been like everywhere.
That's right.
So he was at Photo Plus Expo, and he gave a little bit of a talk about his life experience and stuff, and he was great. He was like really down to earth. He's currently, you should go follow him on Instagram because he's been posting some really cool portraits that he's been shooting recently, totally for the purpose of helping a friend of his organization that helps to feed and house homeless people in LA. And so he's been doing portraits of these people out there and posting the pictures on Instagram. So it's MartinSchoeller. Martin Scholler. He's awesome. I don't think it got too technical. We left, I think, when he was starting to answer a technical question, but
we had to meet the Northrops.
But it was really fun to that's right. It was really fun to just like get to hear.
It was. If I could sum up
stories.
one of his lessons from photographing all of these famous people, it was that he got some of his favorite images when their publicists went to the bathroom. Because a lot of these publicists are very careful to protect their the people they work for's image. And they don't want them doing anything goofy or things that will look embarrassing. So he would often wait until they would go to the bathroom and then say to a person, "Hey, can we try?" And he got some of his favorite images that way. So I thought that's a funny story. It's great. Seems like a nice, humble guy.
I wonder, like, how... Because it doesn't seem like going... Like, a little bathroom break really allows him to be that creative. So I wonder, like, how true that is.
Okay. I don't know. But I thought it was a nice story. So then, let's talk about the show floor that we walked on. So you walk in, and you're greeted, for those who didn't see our Periscope, by Canon and Nikon's booths. And I put booths in quotes because really it's a big area of the show floor with multiple kiosks, counters
Booths.
with cameras on them and people behind the counters letting you handle them. In a lot of cases you're allowed to put in your own memory cards and take sample shots and take shots of the product. In some cases you're not allowed to put your own memory cards in, like the newest Canon cameras. They said these are pre-production. They don't want anybody taking pictures with those yet.
It was interesting to me to see there was almost like a hierarchy based on like how prominent your booth was as soon as you stepped into the expo building, because first thing you see is Canon, then Nikon, then Sony, and then like Panasonic, and you start to see all like the big players clearly had a lot more
invested.
Yeah. So it was pretty obvious just, who's dominating in the photography world.
Right. Based on what I know about prices for square footage, Canon and Nikon easily spent $100,000, I would say, on their area. And very fancy. And Nikon especially had this little area set up for you to take pictures of these women who were decorating cakes in kind of this little fanciful environment. And we did it,
It was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was a little creepy.
It's kind of
and so you just have all this different stuff to try and put your hands on. And also guest speakers. Both Canon and Nikon had stages within their area as well with guest speakers talking on them. And when you were in one booth, you could certainly still hear the other one. It's a very loud, kind of, I would say, oppressive environment.
It's kind of a zoo.
Yeah, zoo. Yeah. But again, you can get some incredible education, and this is open to the public at this event. We saw Joe McNally several times. He's kind of a Nikon guy.
And he did a demonstration on how to light a portrait and like a scene that has like a lot of different elements. So yeah, I mean, even if I didn't realize that they were going to do that. I thought that all the seminars were going to be in like, rooms like separated, but they do actually have people just speaking out at the booth. So yeah, if you're just going to the expo, you can still get a lot of valuable information if you're mostly a beginner. I think if you've been, if you had a business for a while now, you probably won't be able to benefit from anything other than looking at product.
Right. All right, so let's talk specific products for a minute, and that is, no, we didn't get to eat the cake, Greg, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to post a sad face from that.
Let's see. Well, first, my tease. A booth that was quite large for having only one product in there. Any guesses what that was? I was impressed with the size of this booth. It was directly behind Canon's, and for just one product, it was as large as, in fact, it was larger than Sigma's booth, which of course they have a good number of lenses. They've got the new 24 to 35, which I have in for review. I mentioned that a while ago. What else was, the new 20 from Sigma, 20 millimeter f1.4. And I asked them about that. I said, I'm stalling while you all are trying to guess in the chat room what this one bigger booth was. No. I said, why have you come out with a 20 f1.4 when you recently came out with a 24, and they said people were asking us for even wider. So that's why. And then I was trying to pick their brain, what's next? I want the 85 next. You want the 85 f1.4 Art Series next.
I don't know that I would buy it. I'm pretty happy with my Canon 85. Like, it would have to be miles faster in order for me to sacrifice the kind of quality that I get from my 85.
Yeah, that's true. You weren't quite excited with your 51.2 and the Canon, your Canon 35 is kind of broken. But it sounds like the 85 is likely next. So this one booth, Mike got it right, DxO1 camera. It was a big booth. And all they had in there was that little DX1. That's that little camera you can plug into your iPhone or iPad. Yeah, I think it works with iPads too. Not Android. I said, any plans for Android? Nope. Just like that. Not even like, well, we're thinking about it. Don't lie. I mean, could have lied to me, giving me a little hope.
Why lie to you?
I don't know. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because you kind of liked it. A little
bit. So I didn't get to play with it a lot, but I did kind of like it. I mean, I would like to try it out for a little while and just shoot with it. It seemed, it like really elevates your phone photography, which is, aside from my film photography when I'm out traveling and stuff, my go-to camera is my iPhone. And the iPhone camera is decent, but it's not amazing, and this seemed pretty amazing. So yeah, I don't know. I would like to give it a shot and try it out a little bit more. We also tried the Lumix one, and I just didn't like the way that it mounted onto the camera.
The Olympus Air.
The Olympus Air. Sorry, Olympus Air. We mounted it onto the camera, and I just don't, the DxO, it stays on your camera, so I don't have to like pull it off the phone, and if I'm just shooting with my phone, I can just easily grab it out of my bag and just shoot. With this other thing, I feel like I'd have to like really fold that in, like set it up every time, make sure it aligns properly, worry that it doesn't like fall. So it feels a little like flimsy, but you do get to change lenses, so that's kind of nice.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I was less impressed with it. They're really pushing that little thing, as Dalibor said. I don't know. It's it's got a 1-inch sensor in there. It definitely is better than your iPhone, but it's not that impressive. The Olympus Air, I think, has a little bit more value because you can switch lenses. But I'm gonna see if I can get my hands on one or both of these and just bring you some more hands-on information because we didn't really know. So I don't really think. Somebody said in a couple months they're going to be giving them away. That's the other thing, that price is certainly going to drop, which makes me think of that. Remember that little periscope, the HTC Re camera we made fun of over and over again?
Yeah.
It's down to $50 now. $50. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we hope to bring you a little bit more content from, we shot a little bit of B-roll. We did a few like really casual reviews of some of the gear that we saw at Photo Plus. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you some of that in the next week or so. Just do like really, really basic, Just little
Shot
montages
with the
of that.
Leica, the new Leica mirrorless, which is huge and heavy. Very big, very heavy. But you kind of liked it. You also put your hands on, you shot a little bit with the Pentax medium format.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, we'll be bringing some more content.
Yeah.
The one thing I was disappointed, this last thing we'll wrap up with this, is nobody really had the handheld gimbals for the larger cameras. There was one booth that had those, but they didn't seem like they knew what they were doing because they had all of the good stuff in the back, and the only thing they had out front that they were letting people play with was the smartphone ones that stabilize your smartphone, which there's value in that, and there's especially affordable, but DJI wasn't there with their Osmo handheld unit that is 4K and stabilized, and nobody else was there with stabilizers that can hold bigger cameras like we have played with on our Greece trip. And I think that's huge. That is a market that I think is going to be huge over the next couple of years as we make amazing videos with these handheld devices.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. So that wraps up our discussion for today.
Except this one piece that we're going to talk about right here. Do you see that
Or
paragraph?
can we just talk about it in the live Q&A session? I guess it doesn't matter, but... Silence.
Let's just wrap up. Our discussion last week was predicting the future of technology, and we had, some different ideas, and we threw around some fun stuff, holograms, smell-o-vision, but John Hooper wrote in and says, I think your perspective on the future is pretty narrow. You might want to Google Ray Kurzweil on the exponential nature of technology development. 30 years is a long time. That's true. We are on the verge of an explosion in computational photography right now. He points out the light camera, Lightro. Light, for those who don't know, is that cell phone-sized camera with the 16-ish lenses on the back that does computational to stitch them all together. It's a very good point. And various array camera tech will obsolete DSLRs in 5 to 7 years. In the labs, we've already seen sensors where each pixel is a LiDAR antenna. Now, I believe it was Roger who mentioned LiDAR last week, so we did talk about this a little bit. But it says a lot more. That's good. This is a good comment. You can go find it under last week's show. But imagine basically wearing a cloak full of sensors and technology stitching them all together. So you might go cover a wedding in 30 years and wear just a dress and walk around with 1 million sensors all over you capturing what you're seeing. 30 years is a long time. I'm not going to do my old man voice again. Sorry to disappoint, but it is. And photography, as we know it, will be anachronism. Thank you, John, for taking the time to write that. I think you bring up some excellent points, and I agree with most of them. 5 to 7 years, DSLRs will be obsolete. 5 feels a little short. But I agree, we are on the cusp of some amazing changes. When did Lightro first come out? It's been out now for at least 3-4 years, and it just pooped. This light camera is really interesting. I don't love all the hype surrounding it. I think it's been hyped to beyond belief, but it is the sign of things that will come. I agree with that. All right.
All finished?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to move to our live Q&A section, and we're probably going to keep that pretty short since we went a little bit over on the discussion. We don't really have that many. Oops. We're not in the news. So if you have any questions, post them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And after we're done with this, we're going to go into the after show. The after show is, you can catch it live if you're watching live. Otherwise, you have to be a Patreon supporter in order to be able to watch it. And today, as we did last week, we're going to do a photo critique of a supporter submitted photograph. So stick around for that if you are watching live. And if not, then maybe consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Okay, so let's do the first question. This is by Hamid S. Shed some light on what the process of putting your photos through the copyright office is.
This is a great question, and I really don't know. And
maybe we should make this into a discussion topic for the future.
We should talk about this in the future, but I have to say that this sounds arduous and an annoying process. Think about I doubt there's a way where you can feed it and say, here's my Dropbox link. Go look at my 100 photos I want copyrighted. They probably each need to be individually submitted. I've helped somebody I've worked with before submit text works to the Copyright Office, and it was insanely governmental, bureaucratic, red tape website of ancient origins that required 1,000 clicks. So we'll look into this and we'll talk about it more.
Yep. Matt wants to know, would you ever do a video with the Northrops and Matt Granger? Yes,
we had lunch with them on Saturday.
To.
All lovely, lovely people. A lot of fun to meet people that, doing similar things, and we could commiserate about things like Wirecast, like we experienced today.
Audio issues.
And audio issues. We're talking to them. We'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
Thanks, Matt.
P. Dinko wants to know, what should be the next lens Sigma makes after the 18 to 35 focal length and aperture-wise for APS-C audience?
That's a good question. How about something like the 70 to 200? I think they actually don't. Who makes the 50 to 150? A 50 to 150 f 2.0. That would be nice if they could make it one. No, they can't make a 1.8. Not at that length without being huge and unwieldy. But an f2, 50 to 150. That would be a nice range for a crop sensor camera from Sigma.
Greg Thurtle wants to know, was DJI there with their OSM gimbal and X5 Micro Four Thirds sensor?
No, not that I saw. In fact, I don't even think there were several drone makers there. The 3DR robotics guys and some other guys I haven't heard of, but I don't think I saw DJI at all. I could be wrong, but the drones kind of stood out because they all had these big cages that went to the ceiling so they could fly their drones up and down, which was interesting, but not very exciting because it's a small cage. So they didn't seem to be there.
Nope. Any news about the Sony A6100, A7000?
No, it's been very quiet, and we are getting close in toward the holiday season. So we passed this. It's rare. I'm definitely not an expert in this topic, but it's rare that I can come up with any major camera announcements after the last fall photo show that are going to come out within this time period. We might get an announcement from somebody that says, in early 2016 or first quarter, but no, it's been very quiet as far as that is concerned, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. They feel like their camera is selling well enough that they don't need to update it, or they're really trying to push the envelope and they're having issues with that. I've heard overheating issues, but those are rumors a while ago, so I don't really know.
Yeah. Any last minute thoughts?
Any last minute thoughts?
There are
you
no
about
more.
To off me?
There are no more questions. Well, I just don't want to close and then realize that you had something else to say, like it happened last week.
Oh.
So.
No.
Okay. Well, that's our show for this week, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching the whole thing. So actually, I thought we should leave this for the after show, but I think we should tell people now. So we are going to try something different with our shows. Instead of having the podcast just one whole episode, we are going to split it up into, I think, more digestible chunks. So that's, after the live broadcast is released and saved to YouTube, kind of like we split off the after show, we're going to try to do that and sort of logically split up the podcast a little bit.
Logically.
A lot of people have been asking for tables of content, so hopefully this will make, the content more searchable, and, it'll provide a little bit more targeted content for people. So we're going to try that out for a little while. Bear with us. We just wanted to let you know because, we believe in being transparent and letting you know, changes that we make. So, yeah, but that's our show for today. Remember, we're going to announce the Instagram winner next week. So the spooky challenge does go on for 1 week.
Just one.
But there will be no podcast next week because we're going to be doing some traveling. So, but we will be back the week after that, which is November, I believe 11th, November 11th. So we'll try to let you know via social media and send out an email. So if you want to follow us on social media and stay posted, just follow us. Yeah. Anything else?
Just Dalibor posted that there is rumored a Sony announcement next week.
Oh boy.
November 5th. So there could be something from there. At least the lens, maybe an A-mount camera. That doesn't leave anything for the NEX series, or the A6000 series. Even though I said A-mount, alpha mount, it's not the same. It's confusing. Yeah. But we'll see.
All right, everybody, give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, please subscribe.
Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.
Bye.